We're back. That's right. Finally, huh? Community Affairs Committee. I know I've been gone for a little bit. It's been very busy. I'm slightly behind, but not that bad off. I just like behind one video, really. So Community Affairs Committee, we are going to be appointing the new Indianapolis Animal Control Services Director, which is good for those who forgot. IACS is now its own separate department, which means they get their own funding, they get their own director. Before they were a part of business and neighborhood, but honestly, it's very good. This should have happened a long time ago. The person that really brought it up was Shreve, though, because if you remember, probably not, during the towards the end of the mayor's race, probably like a month or two before, because I was sort of there when he was talking to animal control about like the problems that they were having. But he said like, hey, guess what? We got to take care of these people. The building still hasn't been built. It's been 2 years. The very first thing that I do is that we're going to get a new building. And then what happened right after that? Hogsett was like, hey, we got a new building. Hey, we got a new place for a new building because it was supposed to be built over on the east side. But like I've said before, that place actually had contaminated ground. And it would cost like $12 million, probably more now, to actually make it possible to build anything. So Animal Control now has its own department, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the new director is going to be. I did check out her LinkedIn. She has a lot of experience with it. I'm hoping whoever they get for the Department of Public Works that they'll do the same thing, because the last two directors they had zero experience with this whole thing. But let's just get into it. Pretty short video. You gonna start or?
I'll now call to order the Community Affairs Committee.
What in the actual fuck?
We're going to start by having everyone introduce themselves. So if we can start.
My God. Allie Brown. Oh my God. Dude, get yourself together, lady.
Start with the front row with the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Paul Hart, District 20.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Paul Lene, District 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Roberts, District 4.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Ron Gibson, District 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kristen Jones, District 18.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. Keith Graves, District 9 on the Indianapolis East Side.
Even Keith Graves is like, oh, God. He like looks to his side. He's like, what the fuck is that?
I'm Councilor Allie Brown. I represent District 10. And also, if we can have our guest counselor introduce himself tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Josh Bain, District 21.
Thank you, council members. We have two things on our docket tonight, proposal number 5 and proposal number 6. We'll start off with proposal number 5. It approves the mayor's appointment of Kelly Diamond as the director of the Animal Care Services Agency. Director Diamond is here, and she has a presentation for us today. So we'll go ahead and allow her to give us a presentation on who she is and why she would like her plans for Indianapolis Animal Care and Control, and then we'll open it up to questions from the council and comments from the public. Go ahead, Director Diamond.
All right, is that correct? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to be here this evening and for considering my appointment as Director of Indianapolis Animal Care Services. As mentioned, I do have hopefully a somewhat brief presentation to share a little bit about myself, as well as some of our wins at IACS for 2024 and some of our goals for 2025. A little about me: for the past 15 years, my career focus has been in the world of animal welfare and animal sheltering. And in July of 2023, I was happy to join the IACS team as a new path in my animal welfare journey. And while I've served in a few different roles at the shelter, I have had the opportunity to meet and work alongside an extremely dedicated group of people in what is certainly a difficult field. And for those of us in animal welfare, and I know there are some in this room today, we often find ourselves faced with a common sentiment from members of the public, which is, I don't know how you do it, and I couldn't do your job. Animal welfare is certainly a difficult job. It's very hard, there's no doubt. And ICS has certainly faced its own struggles over the years. This past year has been no different, but it has also been not only a year of challenges, but a year of growth for us, and a good start for what I think is to come. At the heart of our work is a commitment to animals, and in 2024, we saw a much-needed shift in thought from leadership and infusion of hope as we stepped out of our uncomfortable comfort zone of working in daily chaos and just started trying new things, because what we were doing clearly was not working. At the heart of it all, again, the world and times have changed, and we had not changed with it. And so in the spirit of that work, I'd like to share some of the strides that we have made and some of the successes that we have had this year. There we go. ICS was fortunate to be accepted into the Best Friends Animal Society Embed program, in which this nationally recognized organization embedded their staff in our shelter for full-time and year-round managerial assistance. They worked alongside staff, helping us to learn more about industry best practices and improving policies and procedures. Our participation in that program is actually winding down and coming to a close soon, but we will continue to receive ongoing support and resources and help from the organization. And of course, there is the new shelter. The groundbreaking, or our ceremonial groundbreaking, occurred this past June. The shelter will be located at 5001 East Raymond Street, and we started actually moving dirt on site the end of last year, and we are definitely looking forward to moving into our new home in 2026.
Jeez.
Several months ago, Best Friends, as a part of the Embed program, also sent us one of their staff members to help us work on workplace culture. As you can imagine, we deal with a lot of stress and a lot of burnout in our shelter and in the industry in general. The Best Friends team worked alongside our leaders, worked alongside our staff, and helped us create a workplace culture agreement. We had a ceremonial signing of our workplace agreement among all of our staff, and we actually have blown up the workplace culture agreement and have it posted throughout our shelter. And while it's something new and different, it's something that we'll continue working on and all doing our parts to help continue to assimilate what we've learned and employ that workplace agreement in our daily work. Last year, we also started our first social committee. This committee was comprised of staff that was tasked with creating morale-boosting activities for the shelter, and throughout the year, they did bless us with some fun activities that were new and different, and we look forward to seeing what our new committee for this year comes up with. Off-site adoptions were something new that we tried as well. In the vein of trying something new and thinking outside of the litter box, if you will, we realized that in the face of decreased pet adoptions nationwide and the difficulty in getting people on our doors, that we needed to start taking our animals to meet the people where they were. The last half of the year, we participated in 4 off-site adoption events, even traveling to Illinois to increase our visibility and provide our animals with new opportunities to find new families and decrease our shelter population. These events were well received, resulted in some great adoptions, and even new partnerships with local businesses. And we look forward to doing more of those this year as well. We also increased our open kennels. We made a big change when we did this. This is something that the public had been asking for. As many shelters did nationwide when COVID initially hit, ICS closed its kennels and stopped allowing the public to actually visit animals. However, ICS did not follow suit when the rest of the world and the rest of the shelters across the country reopened their kennels years ago. This obviously makes it difficult for anyone wanting to adopt an animal if they can't see the animal and fall in love with it.
Hey, and guess whose fault that was, huh? It wasn't Republicans, it was Democrats. All right, they wanted to leave everything locked down a little bit longer, and even our own chair, Allie Brown, she wanted everybody to have to get the vaccine. She wanted more restrictions, and she wanted things to be closed down longer. And so all of you Democrats out there right now are saying, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. These poor animals. Like, you're part of the problem, all right? Look in the mirror. You're part of the problem.
And again, as I mentioned, it was something the public had long been calling for. So we gradually reopened our kennels, and at this point, we now have all of our public accessible kennels open for visitation. And this not only increases the ability for animals to get adopted, but also for pet owners to find their lost pets. One change we made that is perhaps one of our biggest accomplishments, and is certainly one of the most impactful when it comes to alleviating stress and boosting morale for our staff. Last year, I had the pleasure of showing some of our council members our shelter, and some of you as well, and provided a tour. I think it's probably safe to say that it was an eye-opening experience, and I'm sure you saw, because you could not help but miss, the fact that we were out of kennel space, and as a result, we had dogs living in wire crates throughout our hallways and in our offices. Our leadership team made a commitment to our staff at the end of last year that we would not continue this practice. It was not sustainable for the sanity of our staff and trying to work in such an environment, and it just wasn't fair to our animals. So making this commitment, our leadership team organized and held 3 of those offsite adoption events that I mentioned in the short span of 5 weeks. And while our staff stayed back at the shelter to care for our animals, our leadership team and volunteers ventured out to these events. And this included a 25-plus hour day of driving to and from Illinois with 34 of our dogs to try to find them homes.
Nice.
And I'm happy to say, through all of that work from all of our team, we have been without crates in our shelter for the past 4 months, and we will not be going back. Our hallways are clear. Our adoption staff can now work and help the public without being surrounded by over a dozen dogs barking around their desks.
You know, it does make me wonder if they're just like euthanizing more animals now.
And the impact this has had on our morale has definitely been huge. Some of our statistics from 2024, you can see the number of our animal control officer calls that we received last year. Also, the number of animals that entered IACS care. And just as a reminder, we do take not just cats and dogs, but the chicken, the horse, the emu, the peacock. We will take those as well, so they are included in those numbers. On the right-hand side are some statistics that are specific to cats and dogs at our shelters. So we ended the year with an average of 87% life-saving rate, which means that 87% of the cats and dogs that entered our doors left with a positive outcome, meaning that they were adopted, they were found and reclaimed by their owners and returned home, or they were transferred to some of our rescue partners and shelter partners. We celebrate all of this, and yet we recognize there's still a lot more for us to do. So for 2025, some of the goals that we have in store, of course, we are now our new agency, our own agency as of January 1st. We are thankful, very thankful for the partnership with BNS that Director Brand's leadership provided, the help of her team provided while IACS was under BNS. And we are grateful for the continued assistance as we move through completing the transition of being our own department. So of course, that is a big goal that we have to work through. BNS will still be helping us while we work to hire our own CFO and our own manager of operations to support the CFO. And they will help us and continue to help us on the financial side with our budget, with our contracts, with our payroll. And by becoming our own department, we believe that this will allow IACS to be in a better position for the attention and the resources needed, and that the organization deserves to make our shelter a more successful part of the city. As we continue to work filling those positions, I will be learning more about what that means to be our own agency, and actually learning more and becoming more involved in the processes that I hadn't been so involved in, and that includes learning about the budget and our funding. And so I look forward to all of what becoming our own agency means, and using that to help our shelter and our city. We will, of course, continue working towards the new shelter and getting ready for that big move to our new location. And we will be spending a lot of the year doing a great deal of evaluation, looking at how our structure now that we are our own department works. Is it the best? Is there something that we need to change, and what can we do better with those respects? Also looking at analysis reports from Best Friends as our embed program ends, as well as the results from an organizational analysis that BNS worked with us to obtain from an outside animal welfare consulting agency. But overall, looking at what we're missing and gathering that food for thought to help bring us forward. We'll also be looking at shifting from being a shelter that is strictly reactionary and instead focusing on becoming more proactive and working more efficiently. Working smarter with thoughtful, sustainable plans and actually creating and documenting SOPs and policies to keep us on track because those really did not exist. Looking at a variety of training needs for our new shelter team and also looking forward to continue the work on the city-wide strategic plan with our fellow animal welfare partners as we further dive into what our city as a whole needs from all of us in animal welfare and how we can each do our part to better support one another and our community. And then a big part of our focus for 2025 will be community engagement. There is a large disconnect between our shelter and the community that we served. We've started conversations with the MAC team to address and talk about issues with regards to how requests are coming in and improve the process and communication between the public, the MAC, Indy Request, and IACS. And we've also started our own an education campaign with the goal to bridge the gap with the community and foster better relationships, to focus on helping the public to understand who we are and what we really can do, to understand the ordinances and how we can better work together. We're looking at ways to get our staff, particularly our animal control officers, out into the community more as community partners, educators, and resource providers, and community enforcement only when needed. Increasing our opportunities also for pet owner assistance through our Indy Cares program that helps to keep pets in their home with the people that love them, or rather than surrendering them to the shelter because they have stumbled upon difficult times in the moment. And so there's a balance that we are working to find, and it's a difficult balance to find, and that is not only serving the animals, but also the community, but not forgetting our staff and our teams as well. Serving all holistically. Times are different, and we are committed to doing better. We need to do better. We recognize that. And while being smart about it at the same time. There's no one way, one right way to do things. There are no quick fixes, unfortunately, because we wish
Never
there were.
will be.
But we know and we are committed to being better and doing better, and those are our goals. If resourced properly, there's so much more that IACS can do for the animals, for the community, and for our staff, and for the people. And our leadership team has made great strides with what they have done so far, and I'm very grateful for that, and again, for the valuable support from BNS. What I also look forward to, again, is learning more about what being our own agency is, being our own department, and subsequently bringing that to you, to share that with you, so we can talk about being a better shelter and serving our community holistically. I'd love to extend an invitation to all of you, for some of you to return for a shelter, to our shelter for a tour to see what is different, but for those of you who haven't been there, to really see what we've been doing, and I also extend an invitation for future conversations as well. I would be honored to be a part of the progress of ICS. I look forward to working with all of you and appreciate your consideration and time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions from council? Councilor Graves?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks,
What the hell
Director,
is
for your
Roberts wearing? He looks like Gumby, but like with AIDS. He looks like AIDS Gumby.
presentation. Awesome. And just on any given day, will the new location have the square footage per pet, per animal that is comfortable? Or how are we there? Do you know the?
So looking at kennel size or kennel numbers is kind of a good way to put it. So at our current shelter, we have 191 dog kennels. If we're not using wire crates and things of this nature, 191 dog kennels. The new shelter will provide us with 200 and there's public-facing kennels and there's behind the scenes, so I'll kind of focus on the public-facing. There will be about 280 total kennels. That will allow us to care for the average number of animals that we normally have, but in a more humane way. Our current shelter, we just have the kennels that the animals go in and mostly the public comes to, but at the new shelter, we will have isolation kennels so that we can isolate animals if there's a disease outbreak, so that we have more medical kennels for animals so that they're not, sick animals aren't necessarily mixed in so much with the general population.
Yeah, that's very important for euthanasia. That's why she's pointing that out. I hope that she says that.
So it will definitely be a lot bigger. We will have a larger medical suite as well so that we can try to focus on more in-house services, and again, providing more humane care, and just bigger kennels, bigger spaces for the animals instead of the smaller spaces we have now.
There we go.
Thank you. Counselor Roberts?
Gumby.
Thank you,
Hey,
Madam
Gumby.
Chair. There's so much that I could say. I have so much appreciation for you.
And
for all
Keith
of the
Graves is already leaving? Really? 15 minutes in? And he's like, all right, gotta go.
reasons that were said before about just the tough job that you have, and really all the animal welfare advocates that are here. And having worked on the ordinance last year, altering some of the policies, you're always great to work with. And also, again, all the activists that are here. This is a long issue. Like you said, it's complex. If there was a quick fix, would have been done already. But you have a good long career in animal welfare and have done a great job. Just my 4 or 5 times visiting the shelter in the last year and a half, every time I get more of an appreciation for the work that everyone does. And I think really having the shelter, like you said, will be a game changer. It won't fix everything, but it will be a game changer. One of the most recurring themes that I hear about with my conversations with staff that I'm so glad you mentioned here is morale. Obviously, just I think no matter what, there will always be an issue of just turnover in those positions. How is that currently going? I know that there was an issue in the past with staffing. How many positions do you guys typically have, and how many of them are currently filled? And how can we help you guys out with that problem as well? Thank you.
Sure. We are, last when I checked yesterday, at about 20% vacancy. So we are, for example, we've got 20 of our 23 animal control officer positions filled, which is wonderful. We have, we are mostly lacking in our medical department, but I'm happy to report I received several emails today that we've got some offers that went out, so we're excited about being able to build up our medical team, our medical vet assistants, vet technicians. So we're about where we were this time last year, as far as the number of vacancies that we have.
Okay, Counselor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just got a couple questions. I've actually got a neighbor. She owns a donkey and a horse. It's the funniest combination of animals I've seen, but they're buddies. So she sent me about a dozen. I've limited this time to like 4, just to be respectful of time. Some of them are probably softball, but good questions nonetheless. So I want to make sure I'm representing my animal-loving constituents well. I know it's a hard job, right? No doubt about it. And I think we all want to see 100% zero euthanasia as much as possible. So I know that's what is expressed to me as much as possible. But as we go into it, one thing she brought up to me was about veterinarians, and she was curious, and it's a good question. How many vets do we have with
So we have 1 vacancy, and that is the only position. We did lose our veterinarian, I think it was near June or July of last year. So we do not have a full-time veterinarian on staff in our hiring. We instead have been working with that individual, actually is doing contract work with us.
Okay.
And then we have 2 other veterinarians that are doing contract work with us to kind of help fill that void. But we definitely still need that full-time veterinarian, and particularly looking forward to the new shelter. As I mentioned, a bigger medical suite. We need a veterinarian to kind of staff that, and it's actually built to function with even more than 1 veterinarian at a time.
Is it the same kind of situation that every department it's in? City doesn't pay what the private does, and they don't want to.
That is a struggle.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? What are the benefits? And it's like nobody wants to talk about this, including the GOP. All right. You're getting upfront money, or you're going to get a retirement with health insurance. A lot of people in the private sector aren't getting any kind of health insurance, whether it's dental or medical. So you have to, if the GOP were smart, they would bring that up of saying, well, you know what? We do offer this kind of stuff compared to the private sector where they probably don't. And we also have pensions. So is how much is the pension that they're giving you? Now, what's more important to you? Is it upfront pay or is it what happens after you retire? But nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to ask questions. And believe me, I have asked the questions to elected officials, never got an answer.
I mean, it's a recurring thing. We've got to overcome it. Are there relationships with local universities that train veterinarians?
So we have in the past used some Purdue students. Of course, you have to have a veterinarian there to kind of work in that realm. We do utilize different partners within the community, including Indy Humane, several of the clinics that do help us with some of our spay-neuter surgeries that we're able to kind of outsource to them. But in addition, some of our medical needs with some of the full-service clinics, as well as our partners at Face Low-Cost Spay-Neuter. So we've got some ways that we're working around that. It's still a struggle, and we definitely still need that full-time veterinarian, and hopefully building up from there into a bigger team as well.
Okay, well, certainly share, any kind of, if there's digital media that we can all push out, I'm sure everybody here would be happy to share those things to our networks. I'll keep going. You answered the question about euthanasia, or at least you gave the rates on it. I'm sure everybody wants to keep it at a 0% rate, but well, we want to see zero euthanasia. But two quick ones. Is the animal control, are you responsible to any type of regulatory agency?
So we are animal control as well. That is admittedly a whole new ballgame for me. So it's still something that I am personally learning about. So I rely heavily on my administrator and my managers in that realm as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar, but it was one of hers, and we can do some more digging on that later. And the last one, you're going to be a close neighbor to me. So my district actually ends at Emerson and Raymond. And right across the street.
Yeah.
So I know the area very well. When do you open up, or when does the new shelter open up?
We're looking for early 2026.
26. Okay, so about
Still
a year away.
away. Still a long time
Well,
away.
you've got something to kind of
Yeah.
tease the carrot for new veterinarians. This nice new
Yeah.
shiny facility. So, well, thank you for the work. You got a lot ahead of you, and know that you've got a lot of support here to see the best out of this service that we provide to our citizens. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Bain?
Long way away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director, for the presentation, and appreciate the hospitality for being a guest counselor tonight. One of the questions that I get emailed about a lot, and I think most counselors are sent on those, and they're definitely part of like an email campaign, because they all seem to be pretty consistent in their language, but they talk about the adoption policies. Specifically, they label it as open adoption policies, and you don't have to get into like specific instances with staff or anything, but it seems like most of the time they say that there's been like 2 employees that were let go or terminated, or there was some kind of punishment there because they tried to stop adoptions from happening to people that maybe wouldn't have passed a background check, or people who wouldn't have necessarily been permitted to have animals. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I will speak to as much as I can with personnel issues. The issue was not simply, it boiled down to not following policies and procedures, and there were other aspects to that. The focus has been on the fact that one of the issues was not following procedures. We had open adoptions is something that is popular nationwide in shelters, and it basically boils down to treating an individual as an individual, a potential adopter as an individual, and not rigidly sticking to rules that automatically just deny, but instead having conversations, and it's accomplished in a number of ways, but it's aimed at removing and reducing barriers both to the animals and to the public to adopt. That can be done in a number of ways. For us now, it is primarily, instead of people coming in the door and have to sit down and fill out an application and go through an interrogation before they even look at animals, we've stopped that. So that's reducing a barrier. One of the policies that was in place and it only developed in the last, I think, couple of years at ICS was the use of my case and performing a type of criminal background check in that sense before allowing a person to adopt. That included, as you're familiar, my case is not going to show just animal-related offenses, which is, for the most part what we should be looking at, but it shows a lot of information, some of which may or may not have been, true or was in the process. What we found is that that opened up the door for a lot of prejudices and biases and judgment on individuals for items that were not related to owning pets. We saw
Like what?
staff using it, and despite specifics that were in place, specific procedures that were in place, using it because they didn't like, the way a person's shoes looked. They had an accent.
I don't
They
know
didn't have
about
a
that.
car. And so it became very difficult to regulate that and prevent that bias from coming in and stepping in. And then obviously not giving people, a benefit of the doubt, or, recognizing that we all make mistakes and that we learn from that. And so what we did was, instead of focusing on using that as a means of trying to weed through applicants, is we focused on using our own in-house system, as shelters do across the country, that we use our database that includes, because we are animal control, so that includes the database that we have of every call that we've received, every animal that we've gone out and assisted, every animal that's come in and who they came in with, and we use that instead to try to determine whether the individual in front of us was someone that we would adopt an animal to. And so we just, open adoptions is just more about removing those barriers in different ways, and different shelters do it in different ways, and just having those conversations and treating people as individuals.
Okay, all right. Well, let's look. We got a very good case study, all right? The guy's name is Zech Thompsen. A couple years ago, back in 2022, I think, he had adopted a dog, and then the dog was barking too much, so what they did, they took it on his front patio, strung it by its neck, and then stabbed the dog to death. And then a year later, or maybe not even a year later, maybe a couple months later, he had killed somebody. And yeah, so you go onto his my case, and he had a felony before that, just a little over a year. Yeah, so a couple months later, he killed somebody. So a year before that, he had a felony charge, criminal confinement, which is basically kidnap with while armed, strangulation, resisting law enforcement. And what did he get for that? He had a 1-year term, right? Because dismiss. He had a plea by agreement, I'm sure by Ryan Mears. I think he was acting prosecutor at the time. Yeah, only by Ryan Mears. He didn't even have any help. It was literally only Ryan Mears on this. And he's like, you know what? I got better things to do. I gotta go buy my wife a Tahoe. Let's get this going. He got a year. The term was a year. He was already in jail for 102 days. He got suspended for 232 days. And so he just got probation. That's all he got. For all of that, just probation, because he was 102 days in the clink. And then what happens just over a year in that? He kills a dog. But hey, you know what? We didn't want to be prejudiced or anything. Maybe we should have been paying attention to his felony a little bit more instead of caring about what his shoes were. And then what happens? He kills a dude, and then he gets 27 years for that. So, lady, let me tell you what. There are a thing. Stereotypes are there for a reason, okay? If they smell like shit, if they don't have a car, and here's the other thing too. A lot of these homeless people, they're using animals as weaponized empathy so they can get more money from people, because they don't care about the bum, but they do care about the dog. So, lady, you're already on my hit list. I'm going to be paying attention to you of how shitty of a job that you may or may not do, and you can have that smirk on your fucking face all you want, but we need to start judging people a little bit more, because there's a good chance there's something to it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we definitely want to have, a low barrier for people to be able to adopt animals. But just to confirm, if someone does have a history of animal abuse, or, there's probably studies whether or not like domestic violence should be included in that or not, but if someone does
Not
have
wrong.
history of animal abuse, does that show up on your database, even if, maybe animal control is always involved in every situation, but if maybe just IMPD responded and handled the situation, does that still show up on your
As long
database?
as we have some type of, call was put in, whether through the MAC line, or sometimes, people email, or council members will email us, and we will create a ticket. That all goes into our system, so we have that historical information to
Do
you.
police reports?
That's a good question. I would have to ask about that. I don't.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
believe anytime that we are called out to assist, that would definitely be in there.
Oh, Counselor Gibson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Director, I had the opportunity to come out and visit the facility last year, and I was very impressed with your leadership, your management style, and so I wholeheartedly support your appointment this evening. I'm so impressed with you. You make me want to adopt a pet,
You're welcome to.
and so I'm struggling with that, but look forward to seeing how you perform in the coming year. Thank you.
Yeah, I think puppies at council meetings would make things a lot easier. Any other council questions? We have comments from the audience. So please come up and introduce yourself and who you represent.
Thank you.
Well, she's a liberal.
Sorry, well, I apologize. Kim.
As we move forward to the public comment portion of the debate for this proposal, I would like to remind my colleagues and the public of a few ground rules. In order for everyone to have a fair chance to speak and be heard, it is important that we each observe the following ground rules. First, each speaker will be limited under consideration or to conclude that a reasonable violence. I don't think they will.
Casamento. I am the CEO of Indy Humane, and I'm a board member of Operation Indy Animals. Operation Indy Animals resulted from the formation of a steering committee to create a citywide plan for Indianapolis due to a need to address the overwhelming crisis we are facing in our community. This crisis is not just an animal problem, but concerns the safety of our citizens. The citywide plan was funded by Nina Mason Polium and created by a group of concerned animal welfare professionals representing organizations throughout our community. The steering committee for this plan included representatives from FIDO, Friends of Indy Dogs Outside, Indy Neighborhood Cats, Face Animal Clinic, Indy Humane, West Michigan Street Vet Clinic, Indianapolis Animal Care Services, Peaceful Souls Animal Rescue and Recovery, and Indianapolis Animal Care Services Board President Chris Robertson. It was a true collaboration with a desire for solutions to the challenges we face at the forefront of all of our interactions. Great thought and consideration were involved in our process, which included members of our community and animal welfare professionals locally and nationally. Our hope is to continue to work with IACS and its leadership to better the conditions of animals in our community and create real solutions for the animals and the safety of our citizens. We are submitting the community-wide plan for consideration to you to let you know what our citizens are saying about the challenges we are facing. Our board invites this council and/or its members to meet with us to discuss our findings and our ongoing plan to support Indianapolis. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you. And you all have a copy of the citywide plan. We hope you'll review it and reach out to us. We'd love to meet with you individually or collectively at your leisure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience tonight? Counselors, last comments? Counselor Roberts?
I'll just say real quick, again, appreciate the director for being here. Counselor Barth and I have been a part of this for the last year. I wasn't able to make all the meetings, but some of them predated my time on the council as well. We'd be glad to talk about it with all of you as well. This was a very, very thorough process that there was a lot of input, not just from the 9 people on here, but probably 20, 25, maybe 30 community advocates that have been on the advocacy side for a while that really understand this issue. And I just really greatly appreciate all the people that put this together because it's very thorough. It's not just about the short-term solutions, but the long-term solutions, how we can prevent this. Of course, there's always the day-to-day of having a shelter, but the shelter only goes so far, and having the long-term plans to really address this issue is really the most important part to make sure we can get out of this problem and be in a much better spot 10, 20, 30 years from now. So I appreciate that and appreciate you for flagging this for us, and to all my colleagues, really look forward to working on this and implementing the parts of this vision that they've been working on for a while. So thank you. And I'll also just make a motion to send Proposal 5 to the full council with the do pass recommendation.
So we have a motion, a second. Any comments on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of sending proposal number 5 to the full council with a do pass recommendation, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you. We will be sending proposal number 5, 2025, approving the mayor's appointment of Kelly Diamond as Director of Animal Care Services Agency to the full council with a do pass recommendation. Thank you so much, Director Diamond. Now we'll hear proposal number 6, which appoints Danielle Hines to the Animal Care Services Board. Danielle, are you present? Could you please come up? Thank you, Danielle. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be on the board?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for considering my appointment to the board. I have worked in the veterinary community since 2005 in Indianapolis. I'm a registered veterinary technician. I've been involved in animal welfare in Indianapolis since 2014 in quite a few different capacities. I do volunteer at Animal Care Services, and I also foster, much to my husband's chagrin. If anyone wants a foster kitten, we have one. She's very cute. Came in with a broken femur to the shelter. So that's a little bit about me. I did serve on the IACS advisory board in 2022, 2023, and the very beginning of 24. I kind of rolled off and was asked if I would be interested to join again, and I am really excited to see the shelter move forward, especially with the new building.
Fantastic. Counselors, do you have any questions, comments? Counselor Roberts.
Sorry for talking so much this time. This is unusual for me in committees, but I just want to say appreciate your willingness to serve. And please engage with us if we can help out with anything.
Okay.
Our other council appointment, Chris Robertson, who many of us know, does an outstanding job. He's very involved in the community. But please let us know if we can be, again, of helping in many ways. This has been an ongoing topic for us as a council body, really trying to get partnership with the people that we serve with, keeping us engaged with what's going on the committee. That is a very important board to be on. So we appreciate, again, your interest being on the committee, appreciate your history in animal welfare, and look forward to working with you in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other counselors? Do we have any public comment on proposal number 6? Hearing none, is there a motion? You got it. Does that work? Yeah. Okay, can I get a second? Then we have a motion and a second to present proposal number 6 with a do pass recommendation that appoints Danielle Hines, I'm saying it correctly, right? Yeah, Hines to the Animal Care Services Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. We will be setting proposal number 6 to the full council do pass recommendation. Having no further things on our agenda, we're adjourned.
There we go. Easy peasy. Well, I'll be very interested to see what happens with this whole new director, if she's going to allow violent felons to adopt dogs so more of them can be stabbed to death. Who could say? But, I'll always be keeping my eye on it. Until next time.